Mega Man X, everybody. So, welcome back to episode 14.
Chris, you don't do the intros. You don't do the intros.
Here with me, as always,
you're not
is my
allowed.
friend Sean Ryan.
I don't like this intro. This is not a good intro.
All right, but I'm keeping it. And hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 38 of Superannuated Starman. We've played a couple of Mega Man games already, and it only makes sense that we play Mega Man X for the Super Nintendo / Super Famicom. I'm Sean Ryan, and I'm joined by Chris Duerksen, as always.
Hello, Sean Ryan. I'm the host here, and I'm joined with Cory.
How you doing, Cory? I don't like Chris's intros. I don't like them. I do not like them. Sam, I am. I do not like them with green eggs and ham. I could use some ham, though. Does anyone have ham?
Oh, man, ham. Okay, so for those of you outside of the U.S., we just celebrated Thanksgiving. I had a great time. How was you guys' Thanksgiving?
Dude, I had so much ham.
And now you want some more. Now you want some green eggs and ham.
I mean, like, any kind of eggs and ham would be sufficient. You don't have to color them green.
That's fair. Chris, how about you?
In elementary school, teachers like dyed the ham green and eggs. And
we did.
Anyways,
I forgot about that.
Yeah. No, my Thanksgiving was fantastic. How about yours?
I just had a regular plain Jane Thanksgiving. Went and visited some family and just kind of did the turkey thing. So fantastic. This intro has been going on a little longer than I thought it was going to be. So let's jump right into talking about this game. So stick around, and we're going to be right back with the game's history. Developed by Capcom and published by Nintendo, Mega Man X was the first Mega Man game on Nintendo's 16-bit console, the Super Nintendo. Released on December 17th of 1993 in Japan, January 19th in North America, and May 1st of the same year in Europe, Mega Man X is a run-and-gun platformer that carries with it most of the same mechanics that of its predecessors, as well as adding several new concepts and ideas. During development, Keiji Inafune, a longtime Capcom artist who also held positions such as a designer and writer for the game, created Zero, who was originally going to be the game's main protagonist. However, fearing a negative reaction from fans, it was ultimately decided that Zero would play a secondary role to the newest iteration of Mega Man, simply known as X. This, I think, was personally the right call, even though I do like Zero as a character. He's far too removed from what I envision when I think of Mega Man, and the backlash probably would have been pretty severe. What do you guys just think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And so on a slight adjacent thing, Gibbs saw me playing Mega Man for this, and he's super into Mega Man because of Smash Brothers. And we started watching this Mega Man cartoon show where they also have some new Mega Man. I can't remember what the cartoon is. I think it's X. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Mega Man. But
is it Battle Network? Because that might be the newest cartoon / anime. I'm not 100% sure though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not an anime. It's like a kid's cartoon. It's like a Saturday morning Mega Man cartoon where Mega Man is a regular boy. I mean, he's a robot, but like he's going to school and he looks like a regular boy, and then he like Mighty Morphins up and turns into Mega Man.
That's really weird.
Yeah,
so
but anyways,
is a Power Ranger.
Kind of like he walks around like as a normal, except he acknowledges that he's a robot. Like he knows he's a robot and he's working to help robots and humans get along and prove that humans and robots can coexist peacefully, and which who questions that they can't?
To coincide with the North American release, Nintendo Power Volume 56 had X on the cover and featured a 10-page article including maps for all of the Robot Master stages. And speaking of timelines here, I want to put things in perspective. I think it's important to note that when Mega Man X was being released in December of 1993, Mega Man 6 released on the NES only 1 month earlier on November 5th in Japan, which is wild to me to think that the classic Mega Man games were still being made at the exact same time that Mega Man X was. And to bring it back to that classic Mega Man series, this game takes place roughly 100 years after the original Mega Man series. Dr. Kane discovered the ruins of a research facility that belonged to Dr. Light. There he discovered an advanced robot with human-level intelligence, emotions, and free will. After studying him, Dr. Kane decides to replicate the robot named X, creating the first Reploid. Soon after, the design is mass-produced, and as a consequence of free will, some of these Reploids go rogue and are branded as Mavericks.
So this is 100 years later. Dr. Light, I assume. Wait, so who's the guy in this game that's giving us the power-ups?
Dr. Kane. Dr. Light is long dead.
Okay, but he looks like... Does he
are you
look
talking
like
about...
Like in the little tubes.
Okay, that is Dr. Light.
But it's just like a memory of him, or like a storage,
like a hologram.
Like a hologram.
Yeah, but it's Dr. Kane who is the one who found you.
Oh, okay.
To stop these robots turned evil, Dr. Kane, along with the government, formed an elite military police task force known as the Maverick Hunters, headed up by an even more advanced Reploid named Sigma. Tasked with capturing or disabling the Mavericks, Sigma leads the Maverick Hunters for a time before becoming a Maverick himself, after seizing control of a small island and coercing most of the other hunters to his side. X, riddled with guilt, decides to join Zero, the only remaining loyal hunter, to find and defeat Sigma. The game starts with a Maverick attack on a human highway where X encounters Vile, a mercenary working for Sigma who pilots a walking tank known as Ride Armor. Unable to defeat Vile, X is saved at the last moment by Zero, forcing Vile to retreat. X is then off to defeat the 8 rogue robot masters branded as Mavericks. And if you're looking to play Mega Man X yourself, there are several options, although I'll be honest and say a lot of those options involve older consoles or services that are no longer available through official means, if you get what I'm saying. There's the 2006 Mega Man X collection that released on both the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. The game was also available through the eShop/Virtual Console for the Wii, Wii U, and new 3DS. It's also still available to buy on Apple iOS for the low price of $4.99 if you want to use a Virtual Console scheme. I'm being very sarcastic, by the way.
I was just pulling it up.
Say again?
The Mega Man X
I was just about to pull that up.
The Mega Man X Legacy Collection's on Steam as well. I don't know if you knew that.
It is. I'm still getting there.
Oh, okay. Well, dang gosh.
So I'm going through the timeline that it's available. So last I talked about the Apple iOS, you can get it on the Apple Store. Like I said, it's $5. Don't do it.
$2.99.
Oh, then it's been reduced because it was $5 last time I checked.
Bro.
Oh yeah. Discount price until December 7th. Yep.
Well, there you go. If you're hearing this now, on November 26th of 2023, you have until December 7th to waste $3.
Are you gonna get this out today? That's impressive.
Oh yeah, I just kind of shoot on this. I'll try.
You just locked it in.
You can also get this game on the Super Nintendo Classic Edition, as it was one of the 21 games available on the system. However, through the Mega Man X Legacy Collection that's available on PlayStation 4, Steam, Switch, and Xbox One. And I'm sure you can find other means of playing this game if you look hard enough. But probably the most interesting way to experience Mega Man X is by playing Mega Man X Maverick Hunter, which is a ground-up remake of the game for the PSP that came out in 2005. After having locked myself into getting this out tonight, I think it's time for us to take another music break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss our memories of Mega Man X. I have a lot of memories of Mega Man X, despite not liking the X series nearly as much as I like classic Mega Man.
Okay, so I'm not the only one, right?
You're what? Definitely not. And
Okay.
I have so much to talk about on that later. But I did rent this when I was younger, and I was put off by the fact that it wasn't like the Mega Man that I remember. For me, it was like coming back to your parents' house after years of not living there, and everything has been rearranged. All the stuff is still there, but it's not like you remember it to be. So I bounced off of it pretty quickly because I had so many other great Super Nintendo games to play. I did come back to this game through emulation, but once again, I bounced off of it because you guys know how it is. You have an entire catalog at your fingertips. So the moment that something is the slightest bit inconvenient or unpleasant,
you roadblock and you're just like, this isn't done.
Yeah, you just load up something new in 10 seconds or however long it takes.
What other nostalgia trip can I go on?
Exactly. And it wasn't until the Mega Man X collection on GameCube that I finally played through this game. And this is an aside here, but I originally bought the Mega Man Anniversary Collection for the PS2, and I traded it in so I could get it on the GameCube because I was like, it's a Nintendo game. I want it on Nintendo consoles. But that was a huge mistake because the button mapping is wrong. You know how it's BA on a Nintendo controller?
Yeah.
Well, it's swapped on the GameCube. Yeah. And it just ruins the experience completely. I don't remember if it was that bad for the X collection or not, but I did manage to play through this entire game when I was younger. I was a young adult at this time frame, so it's probably about 20 years ago that I was playing this. The thing about Mega Man X is that I have memories of playing the game, but I don't really have any solid memories of anything about it. The music didn't capture me like the original games did. I felt like some of the Robot Masters were just poor imitations, like Cutsman wannabe, the boomerang guy.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I had the exact same thought.
The game just didn't capture the same spirit that the older games did. And I told you guys the story about how I tried to hide my rental copy of Mega Man 2 from my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening to this and you don't know that story, go back to our Mega Man 1 and 2 episode and check it out. I have played the PSP version of the game, but I never beat it. Same scenario. I had a ton of PSP games. I didn't get very far, and I just went to something else because I was more interested at that time in hacking my PSP than I really was playing it. But I do plan on going back and beating the game once I have some more time. Chris, what about you? Did you ever really play it? Because I know you got a Super Nintendo a little later like I did.
Yeah. I know I never had this on the Super Nintendo. I think honestly I might have was there a release of this on PlayStation? I know you were listing off a bunch, but I swear I remember. Oh wait, that might have been X2.
There was a collection on PS2 that was available.
My thing, like Mega Man games, all kind of blurred together for me, so I don't really. I have a hard time distinguishing one from another. And you were kind of saying how like this game felt kind of recycled, which, I mean, Mega Man, is this actually the 10th in the series?
No.
Okay.
It's just
is it the
X,
7th?
bro.
Is it just the 7th?
No, it's not. It's like what, the 4th or so. But he's like,
Well, no, because he said Mega Man
no.
6 came out like a month before this one or whatever.
This is like the 7th Mega Man game. I don't really know the Mega Man timeline very, very well, but I think this is the 7th game in the series.
Okay. So, but anyways, you were talking about how Boomerang Guy was kind of like a remake of Cutsman, and I mean, like, that doesn't really surprise me because how many different bosses, if each game has 8 bosses? Like they're not going to be like, yeah, they're going to start stepping on toes.
Like, I think my main issue is, to completely cut you off, I think that they, like, the original games had guys that were based on their powers, right? Like you had Cutsman, Gutsman, Fireman, Rock, whatever.
Yeah.
And then these new ones are like these animal types, right? And you guys could have done something more creative with like all these like animal creatures and like, I don't know, pulled off of like the animal kingdom or whatever. And I don't know, they just feel like poor imitations a lot of the time, in my opinion.
Yeah, even back in the day, I felt that a lot of it was squandered because you had several different animals here. You had the penguin, the eagle, the chameleon, the armadillo, and then you have a Boomerang Guy.
Don't forget the elephant. Oh wait, they were all.
Yeah.
They were all animals except for the Boomerang Guy, weren't they?
Yeah, he just doesn't make any sense, really. He's just kind of this odd man.
Even him, I think the name's a little misleading because he's like some sort of like bug creature when you look at his character model. But I think they just, I don't know, they just really, like they let themselves short.
Now I'm confused.
I am too, because I hadn't thought of him as a bug at all. But that's a possibility. But what about you, Cory? What about your memories of playing Mega Man X?
I don't have any childhood memories. I mean, my first time playing this was probably like sophomore year in high school. I didn't have this as a child. We were not a big Nintendo console, as we've covered in the past. And this was not one that we really picked up. And playing it, like I played the originals, especially like in arcades and stuff like that, and like at friend's house, and getting around and doing stuff. But this honestly just felt like a really poor imitation to me. And I remember getting like a collection of these games and playing through this one and just being like, this is not really Mega Man to me. So I immediately kind of like discarded it after playing a few stages. And going back and playing it again, I think I made the right decision, because I don't think this is really my favorite, if I will.
See, well, I want to hear your opinion more in our next segment. But Chris, right. What you were about to say?
I can't believe, like, to me this feels just like every other Mega Man. Like, it doesn't feel like not a Mega Man game.
Like I said, it has all the same elements, but it just doesn't. It's missing something.
By the way, I googled it. He's supposed to be a stag beetle.
Okay, well, there we go.
Maybe,
a Kowanger is a Kowagata in Japanese, which is the stag beetle.
So his boomerang thing, like his pinchers or something?
Yeah, he's throwing his little hat at you.
Okay, well, that makes a lot more sense.
Completely original.
I wish I'd look into this, but
I mean,
nevertheless, he's still Cutsman.
Right, and I think like if they wanted to do something different, they could have done something where like he charges you and he uses his pinchers to like grab you, and then I don't know, you get
Body
thrown in
slam
the
you,
air or
kind of like the
something.
other
Like yeah,
Mega Man game.
like I think they could have like had him grip you with his pinchers, and then like I don't know, you had to like press something at a certain time frame, or he would like slam you into a wall or something. Like I don't know, they could have gotten creative with it. There's plenty of like bullet hell games, like Super Meat Boy and every other spin-off where they do interesting things with their bosses. I mean, Castlevania is kind of the same, you know, like you get into a big room and you fight a boss, and like they do a lot of creative things. I think this is just recycling characters, honestly.
Well, Mega Man has had a history of this long before now because you had, oh my God, you had like Flame Man, and then I think later on you had Fireman.
Right, and I mean, but counter argument, as I said, they tended to bring back enemies, Cutsman and Gutsman, Elect Man. Like a lot of those are like staple characters, and they come back repeatedly throughout the series, or there's different iterations of them, and you're kind of expecting that. These are like completely new characters with new names, and they're based on like the animal kingdom, and I think they just really sold themselves short.
I definitely agree with that. Is there anything you guys have before we move on to the next segment?
Nope.
Cory?
Like I said, I just remember playing this. Probably the first time was on a computer because I was a thieving child. And it really wasn't available for re-release, as many of these aren't. But like it was one of those things where it just really didn't make a big kind of like mark in my childhood history.
Same. And for me, I always kept going back to Mega Man 2 because that's like my
Classic.
Mega Man.
Yeah. That is the Mega Man. I think that everybody points to that one as.
Well, there's a lot of people that defend 3 like no other. And in fact, there's a lot of people that say 3 is better than 2, which I'm willing to fight them in the street over that. All right, so let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Mega Man X in 2023 for the remaining months that we have for it anyway. Stick around, enjoy this music. Well, everyone, we're back, and it's a Mega Man game, so there's a good chance that we're going to defeat 8 robot masters, collect their powers, and then use them against each other.
And beat them again.
Chris, tell me about your experience of playing or replaying Mega Man X today.
I had a lot of fun. And also part of the fun thing I mentioned earlier, Gibbs is really into Mega Man because of Smash Brothers. And he's obsessed with the Yellow Devil. But he saw me playing Mega Man. He's like, "Wait, Dad, you're playing Mega Man?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, can I watch?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then he wanted to play with me, so I was playing it on one console while he was playing on the other, and he was just having a good time playing Mega Man with me, which he was really into Sonic, which is cool, but this was different. I don't know, he's just more capable this time, so it was a lot more fun. And I had a good time playing it. And back to the actual experience of playing the game itself and not just playing with a 7-year-old. I like the game. I'm a big fan of Super Nintendo and Super Nintendo graphics and how smooth everything runs. And I like the the controls on this one, and it just felt good. And I like the platforming and the leg power up, being able to boost jump and everything like this. Yeah, the bosses are super easy. Well, I mean, like if you know their weaknesses, which at first I did not, but at the same time, like you said, they didn't put a whole lot of thought into the bosses, and I think you guys both agree with that, right?
For sure.
Okay.
I think that they are just completely squandered for
I
what
would
they
say
could
for the
be.
most part. I think like
This-
the chameleon guy is probably one of the ones that is probably
which
best designed.
And honestly, that's probably didn't see that kind of boss on previous Mega Mans because on NES you couldn't have invisible characters walking
Yeah.
around, like, you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't capable.
Transparency was definitely something new to the Super Nintendo, and I want to make this comment before I forget it, Chris. And you mentioned how like smooth everything is and the music and all that. One good thing to note here is that with the Super Nintendo and it being more advanced than its predecessor, you don't get like the music cutting out when there's your charge shot for some of the older games, or you don't have that sprite flickering if there's too many enemies on the screen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and this one I don't until like the very last wave. I don't know what do you call it? The boss rush modes, because even the boss rush modes is like broken up into like 4 different boss rush modes. And it really wasn't
Yeah,
until I think the last one where like all of a sudden I had just a bunch of dudes on the screen at the same time. But I cheesed it and used the chameleon ability just to run past them all. But the game, I thought it had good smooth graphics. Yeah, the music wasn't anything memorable. The bosses were kind of easy, but the boss rush mode I actually had a lot of fun with. This game is a lot more, I would definitely say, casual friendly, because every time you beat a stage, it refilled your health, refilled your power ups, and the boss rush mode was broken into what, 2 bosses at a time, 2 bosses at a time, right? So
2 or 3, I think, because you still have to fight Vile and you fight Sigma.
can we talk about those fights? Because
Let's say that towards the end, because
okay,
Cory hasn't even mentioned anything
yeah,
yet
yeah.
about his experience.
But yeah, so my experience of it was positive though. Whenever we're picking games, these are the games that are right up my alley because I like to be able to play them for 20 minutes, turn them off, and just have that nice nostalgic feeling in my tummy. So on to the next person.
Well, and the password system is really, really simple. And, I wish I'd remembered this earlier, but as a kid, I used to experiment and try to guess the passwords because you can kind of figure out the pattern to them
You felt like a
pretty
hacker.
quickly. A little bit, yeah. Cory,
Well,
what are your experiences with the game? Oh, go
when I was
ahead.
a kid, though, I used to do the exact same thing with passwords. I would take one password that I knew, and then I would just change one of the numbers on it to see where I'd end up instead.
Yeah, for sure. Cory, what are some of your experiences replaying the game?
I went ahead and played it over the holidays. I had my Switch with me, so I finally had some downtime. Honestly, little lackluster. As I've said, this is, in my opinion, it's just a kind of a rehashing or a imitation of the game. The graphics feel nice, but um, the storyline leaves a little bit to be desired, and I don't like the fact that they kind of throw us in the future and you don't really see any of the old like robot masters or anything, and that's kind of like part of the fun for me is going back and doing the whole like Dr. Light and Dr. Wily thing. So that was a little disappointing. Gameplay was okay. I think that playing through it, I really felt that the charge buster shot was pathetic, and there was a lot of frustration on my end from like running into a lot of monsters that were more or less like immune half the time, and it just felt like a lot of extra platforming and not a lot of like the run and gun that some of the earlier games would give me the feel of. Obviously there was still platforming, but I think a lot of it is like the fact that you'd run into stuff and you'd be unable to really even like shoot it or hit it. And even on some of the first stages, I think it is like the Bugman stage where like one of the shield guys is like the first dude you run into, and getting like in front of that enemy and being like constantly unable to shoot him, and even with like a charge buster shot, like he's immune to everything, so you have to like do this weird thing where you're like sliding down the wall and trying to fire while he's like throwing his little mace at you. It was just frustrating. It was a lot of trial and error, where the previous Mega Man games to me felt more like you just kind of run and blitz your way through and blast a lot, and then the trial and error came more from like platforming, versus this one where I found myself dying a lot just because I was trying to kill things that really weren't meant to be killed, and that really kind of drove me crazy. And like I said, the charge buster shot being like unable to like really one shot a lot of creatures also was really disappointing. And as far as Mega Man games go, I just really was not having a good time. It really felt more like homework, I think, and I don't know if maybe it was just the headspace I was in, but it was really just bringing me down.
I've got a lot of comments. I have both comments for you, Cory, and for Chris, and I have a bunch of questions. But like one thing that stuck out to me that you mentioned was the charge shot, and I do not like it. In fact, I hate the charge shot. I've hated it.
It takes so long to build up too, because it's got 3 stages, right?
Yeah, but I've hated the charge shot since Mega Man 4 because and this kind of ties back to what you're saying. You're talking about the run and gun aspect of it. For Mega Man 1, 2, and 3, you had the Mega Buster. When you shot an enemy, most of those enemies died in one of those little pellets. I don't have really a better word for it, but
the big old energy bolt.
Yeah, if you came up to a larger enemy, you knew that you were gonna have to, spam your Mega Buster and really like plow into that guy. But with Mega Man 4 onwards, the game now revolves around the charge shot.
Yeah.
So you basically have to hold the button and just kind of wait for the next enemy and then release it.
Right.
And that might not even kill them, like you mentioned. And that takes away the fun that is Mega Man. I want to be able to go fast, and that does not mean running around and holding down the button so I can hopefully beat.
Yeah, and you're doing it before like every new screen as well.
Yeah.
And see, part of that, to tie into that is that you did need that charge shot. But then, like I said, you'd get to the next screen and there'd be like the little man with the shield and the mace, and he's invulnerable to damage as long as he's standing still. And you have to wait for him to like swing his mace, which is a pretty short window. And and then you have to hit him with a charge shot. So you're like holding this charge button around while you're trying to like duck back and forth and jump around and stuff, which is kind of annoying in its own aspect. Or like another monster would be when you're walking along and there's the guy standing behind like the refreshing pillar. So he'll pop up these 2 pillars and he'll like swing his little axe at it, and it'll launch a pillar at you. And the pillar's like constantly respawning almost immediately. So if you're trying to kill him with a charge shot, he is already putting up a new pillar by the time you blow up the last one. And it's just
talking about like the lumberjack robot?
Yeah, like the lumberjack guy. Yeah. And it's like you basically have to like jump on top of this like, lumberjack pillar that he's cutting down. It's like a refreshing tree. And then you have to like get behind him, and then you have to lay into him. And it's just like so tedious. I didn't like it.
No, I assume you guys did the same thing as I did, where like whenever you're not actively shooting somebody, you're just constantly have a charge shot ready to go.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're running around with one button pushed in at all times.
Yeah, and it just felt so not intuitive. And then the other thing is like I was getting so frustrated, and they are kind of so liberal with like healing items in this one versus other versions.
Super.
So like the old Mega Man's like getting health back was kind of like a thing where it was like, oh crap, like someone finally dropped a hit point up, like I'm gonna go get that. In this one, they're so liberal with like the health power power-ups, I was just damage boosting through a lot of these. Like I was like, screw it, I'll get shot, I'll wait for some like cheap flying enemy that I can just farm hit points from. Like it was one of those things where it's like, I don't want to play this level. I just want to get through it so I can get to the boss.
Yeah, no, I feel that.
I think that kind of goes back to what you were saying, Chris, about it being a more casual Mega Man experience. Because you have health everywhere. Not just health, but you have those 1-ups.
I had many 1-ups.
So many lives.
I think I ended the game. Now, granted, I was using save states, so it doesn't quite count. I think I had 9 1-ups before I actually started dying at all. So
I'll talk about my experiences a little more in depth in a second, but I had 9 lives before I got to the end where I lost most of them because and I'll talk about that in a second. But what about those segments where you ride in the armor? How did you guys feel about that?
I wish they would have been a bigger part of the game.
I think we disagree there.
See, I wish they actually would have built a level based around it. Kind of like I have the same experience in Super Mario 3 when you finally get the boot, and I thought the boot was the coolest thing in the world, and you only get to use it for like 10 seconds because there's only one part of the level where you need it for, and it's such a short little part, and then you never use the boot again. And the armor is the same way, where like you get in this cool mecha armor, and it's like, oh, you feel really badass for a second, but you don't do it. You don't use it for anything. You basically use it as a walking simulator from here to there, and then you hop out.
My problem with it is that you see Vile, who is, you think, going to be a main part of the game because he's like the first guy. He immediately gang stomps you, and he has his own mech, and then you do nothing with it until much later in the game. Sorry to cut you off, Corey. What'd you have?
Oh, I was going to just say my issue with it is that it just felt very low stakes. Like as soon as I got in that thing, it was over. Like that, like back third of the level or whatever that you have that power armor. Like I especially think that's in the chameleon level where you're like in a swamp bit. Like as soon as you get in that armor, like you don't have to worry anymore. Like you just kind of run forward. You really don't take damage. You don't die. So you just get to punch things with this power fist, and it's just this kind of. It becomes a cinematic at that point almost. Like there's no danger.
Well, and the worst, I mean, your mech does have a limited number of hit points, but
it doesn't feel like that though.
Oh no, it definitely did. But when you're in the power armor, you have no range at all. So what I ended up,
that's why you use the little sprint mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. But like it ended up there were times when my power armor would die. And I should say when there were times, there was one time because you only use the power armor like 3 times in this game, and
honestly,
only one of the times.
I never once had mine die. That's like how low stakes it felt to me.
But there were times where I was in the power armor. I was like, I wish I could just shoot something instead of trying to punch it.
Oh yeah, there are times I got out just because I was like, this is tedious.
Now there was one power armor because I did end up, before I beat the game, I did go back and try to get all the power-ups, and one of the areas you had to use the power armor to launch yourself basically as a double jump to get up to the ledge to get up,
which was also tedious.
Yeah, that was the most useful spot for power armor in the entire game.
How many of those capsules did you guys actually find?
I believe I ended up finding all of them.
I found the ones that were very obvious because I was not going out of my way to.
I looked it up after the fact, and I found a guide and went back and got them all.
So I knew where they all were, except for the, oh gosh, which one is it? The arm one, I believe, because the one in Flame Mammoth stage, we talked about this a lot, Chris. The one that requires you to have both the head capsule and leg capsule to reach.
So I was going to, so about going back and finding all the power-ups. In our Discord, guys, I was messaging these guys going, "Oh my god, how do you get to this arm power up? I can't get it."
Yeah,
I didn't
Chris
realize
was committed, dudes.
I was so committed, but I wasn't following a guide. I had no idea that you couldn't get it unless you had the head power up first. So
wait, I didn't know
idea. Yeah, so I was making the proper jumps. I got the jumps nailed down. and I finally
you
the only
get the equipment. It was just a one shot because you've already practiced like 8 times.
Yep, I got it on the first try once I got the head power up, and I was so
that is so sad.
Yes, yeah, it was. Yeah, because the only guy that I saw, I'm like, oh, there's the blocks up here. Like I saw like a YouTube short. It didn't go into detail on how to get it. It just said this is where the arm cannon is. I'm like, okay, I can get that. So I was hitting it, but you needed the head armor to actually break through the blocks. If you had the leg power ups, you can break the blocks sideways. So I was able to break the first block sideways, but I didn't have the head armor to go vertically. And that tiny little snippet that showed me where it was in the first place didn't have any other details. So I'm like, oh, I should be able to get it, and I just can't. And I saw like in the YouTube comments section about everybody talking about, oh, this is the most frustrating jump of the game. I was telling you guys, like, my thumbs were literally getting sore.
You were trying so hard
because I was trying for like 20
you
minutes.
Just couldn't even do it.
And yes,
my poor child.
My thumbs were literally sore from trying this thing for so long.
That is brutal.
And it turns out I just wasn't even there yet.
What was you guys' favorite stage? And what was your least favorite stage? Because my least favorite was Storm Eagles, but I thought it was the most interesting and dynamic of all the stages.
My least was, I'm not a big fan of underwater stages. And I mean, that sounds silly, but I mean, and it was kind of fun because like you get to jump higher underwater, but that's my least favorite.
My favorite was probably Penguin Man's, just because I'm a sucker for like winter stages, and my least favorite was probably like the Boomer cover Garger fight, because it was very tedious to me.
Now, one thing I will say is that I did not properly look up the order guide, so I did things out of order the first couple of things.
Oh yeah, I winged the crap out of this, which is probably also to my detriment.
But by the time I got to the elephant stage, the fire stage, apparently, if you do the penguin stage in front of him, there is no fire in his stage. So when I got to his stage, I thought it was like a freebie stage. Turns out like there's a bunch of lava in that stage that I just had no idea about.
Okay, I'm so glad you brought that up because I was just about to talk about that. So depending on which bosses and how you defeat them, what order you defeat them in, it will affect the environmental hazards in other stages. For example, like you mentioned, if you beat Chill Penguin, the lava and Flame Mammoth stage will be frozen. If you beat Storm Eagle before Spark Mandrill, in his stage, the lights will flicker off and on.
Is that why? Because when I went back to that stage for the power-ups, the lights were flickering on off, and I was like, I don't remember this before. But that's why
way
harder.
If you beat Launch Octopus before Sting Chameleon, the stage will be partially flooded. So
see, now that's cool. Now other Mega Man games, do they have that?
Not like that. So I think that is a really interesting way to change things up and make the world feel more connected than just 8 distinct areas that have absolutely nothing to do with each other. So that's a plus for Mega Man X.
And also, and it gives replayability and does kind of tie in, because like one thing this game has that I didn't remember seeing in any of the NES Mega Man games was that it actually had a world map, like Mario style, where you could like follow the little trail.
Yeah, for sure. Cory and Chris, was there anything else you guys had before I jump in with my replay?
Go for it, Scoop.
So one really interesting thing that I thought of while playing Mega Man X, did you guys watch the intro cutscenes, or did you guys just hammer that button and skip right through it?
I don't remember an intro cut. Yeah, I definitely hammered it. Yep.
Okay.
I think I watched it, but I may not have been paying attention.
There's some written exposition that I thought was super interesting because they directly mention, and this is very nerdy, but they directly mention one of Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. Okay, law being a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm.
And a robot must have sick dance moves.
And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, why is that important and why does it matter? I found it interesting because Mega Man exists in a fictional universe, but in this universe, they acknowledge a real author and directly mention rules for robots in that fictional universe of that author that he created. So it's just this kind of like
they broke the fourth wall, sort of.
Yeah, this weird kind of meta thing that, you know.
Or maybe this wasn't a fictional universe and really it's the story of the future.
Yeah, because it takes place in year like 21XX, something like that. So for my replay, most of these levels, outside of more colors and a faster processor, which means more enemies and less slowdown, I disliked most of them. However, I did like Spark Mandrill stage a lot, mostly because of the more unique aspects to it. Like when it goes dark, there's a bird that flies by and will illuminate a strip of the stage.
Yeah, which was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool and provided, a unique touch. And that's something that I love because it adds something special to the stage. But the game, it just doesn't hold up. And I'll talk more about that in my final thoughts. But I also was really frustrated by the controls. You guys, I always read the manual. I didn't read it this time because I had this
because it's Mega Man.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I know what's going on, but I spent half the game wishing that there was a dash button mapped to the L or R buttons, and when I finally tapped the shoulder button, that's when I discovered that you can rapidly change your
power ups.
Power up, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
one thing I did not learn until I looked up a guide to go back and get some of the power ups that I missed was that you can power dash off walls, and that made fights so much easier, especially boss fights when you get cornered in the wall and you're like jumping up the wall and the boss is like underneath you and not moving.
Way easier.
Yeah, you can dash jump off a wall and like shoot yourself like 3/4 of a screen over.
Yeah, and doing that dash jumping, I really wish there was mapped to a button because I didn't even realize double tap, to get the directional. And that's when I went back and I was like, all right, I got to read the manual. And I read through it and I just thought to myself, it's Mega Man. There's not going to be anything really new here to me, but for sure there was. I kind of talked about those levels already, but I'm upset that there wasn't like the classic Wily Castle,
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like, I really miss having.
I didn't even think about that.
Original dudes.
I mean, they kind of had a really half-assed attempt with it, with the boss rush with Sigma, or prior to Sigma, where you fight all these enemies, and even some new ones. But I didn't like them either. Like, for me, my gut check in this game was, I don't know if it's Bow Spider or Boss Spider, but that thing is an absolute pain in the ass. And if you don't remember it, there's a spider and there'll be several little green bars and it will rapidly come down. It took me a while to figure out the pattern because I couldn't remember. But if there's a green bar as he's going down, he will travel in that direction. So you have to quickly look at the entirety of it and then figure out where the spider is going to be, because your window to hit him is so small that if you are not spot on, you lose your opportunity.
Charge shot.
Yeah, which again if you don't have a charge shot,
you had to have a charge shot for this because the regular shot just bounced off of him, and the charge shot was like the only thing that would actually deal any damage to him. And as far as if I remember correctly, I don't remember him having a weakness to any of the power ups or anything. I think the charge shot was like the way to go.
That is his official weakness.
The charge shot.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's just so. Ugh.
And it's so cumbersome because if you miss that charge shot, or because God forbid you have to jump or something and accidentally take your finger off, you can't charge up, and by the time he comes back down again. And then once he gets down to 50% health, he goes twice as fast. You're like, it's slow. The charge shot, like you said, I didn't think about this before, but it completely slows down the flow of the game.
Yes, and it started in Mega Man
dude,
4.
I'm telling you, it's tedious. It's tedious, and I hate it.
So is that why you think Mega Man 3 is the best one?
No, Mega Man 2 is the best one.
I'm kidding.
Mega Man 3 is right behind it.
I still thought 3 was really good. I mean,
it is cool, man. You have Snake Man and Skull Man.
Like,
can we play that one next year?
3 feels like that. Like, things got serious, and Mega Man kind of got into like his serious business sad boy times. And 2 was like when he's just running around blasting everything and having a good time.
But I think that we kind of talked about all the different Robot Masters and the stages and everything. And Chris, you were pretty excited to talk about the final battle. So why don't you jump in and talk about your experience with it, and then we'll all just kind of feed off of that.
I just want to know. So the final boss battles, there were, the one that's burned. Okay, so the spider. You talked about the spider. Then there was the face, which that one was my least favorite. I just wanted to point out how much I hated the face.
All right. Are you guys ready for the names? I know Cory thinks I'm making this stuff up, but each of those bosses has a name.
You are making them up.
I'm not making them up. Okay,
yeah, you're definitely making these up.
There's Boss Spider or Boss Spider, whatever it is. The face is named. Oh God. Okay, Rangda.
Named Andross.
Bangda. That's Rangda and Bangda. So Rangda Bangda.
Oh, that's my nickname in college.
Bangda
is the name of the face. There's the D-Rex, as in Delta Rex. And then the last two are kind of a joint boss situation where you have Velgarder, who is the robotic wolf. And then you have Sigma, the final boss.
Okay, so what was D-Rex? I can't remember. What that boss look like?
It was like this.
Oh,
it was like a mouth.
The two-part thing?
Yeah, it reminded me of like a robotic hamburger with teeth.
See, I thought it reminded me of a tank, where like the bottom part was this tank that moved back and forth, and then the top part was like this crunchy, squishing platform. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of like a top hamburger bun that somebody's picking up and then trying to smash with. Somebody's pulling apart their hamburger.
That's just the visual that came to my mind. So
that works perfectly.
These bosses, okay, I thought they were very, very, very easy. Okay, especially that very last stage.
Yes. They went down so quick.
Yeah, and if you had picked up the E-tanks before, in the last stage, you have this like vertical shaft that you have to climb the wall, but there's these little like worms that come out of drainage pipes, and blasting them, almost all of them drop health, like Cory was mentioning. So you can just fill up your E-tanks, and then the rest of the bosses are just cake because you have so much health that you don't have to struggle, and you can just tank damage.
Yeah, and the fact that like monsters kind of randomly dropped health and like you could just farm by respawning creatures was just another thing where it's like, oh, okay, like this is really simple.
And you could farm by all you had to do is move a frame over and then come back in. A screen over,
like
everything would respawn.
Literally just were resetting the stage basically and getting free health repeatedly.
Now there were times with that where I got super frustrated while I was like trying to climb up like a shaft, and I kept missing the ladder.
You were trying to like hitbox something to like kite an attack or something like that. You were constantly like refreshing a monster. Yeah.
That happened a lot to me in this game. But
you have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah. I wish they would have made the refresh thing literally not 2 sprites. like I moved just a tiny little bit, and one of those helicopter dudes would respawn right over me and get ready to hit me again. But back to the boss fight though, as far as being the easy thing, the dog, Sigma's little dog helper, he went down super quick. I can't remember what power up I used on him. Was it the ice maybe? I can't remember, the ice shotgun or something like that.
I just used the X Buster.
But he went down, like he dropped faster than anything else in the game. And then Sigma, are we still talking about the bosses? Am I allowed to move on to Sigma?
Yeah. We're already there.
Okay. Because I mean, like, he was actually kind of cool. He looks like a crash test dummy, but he was the only boss that had two stages to him, right? If you don't count like the spider speeding up at a halfway point.
Yeah, he has 2 phases where everyone else just has the 1 phase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
hit 50% is more like an enrage mode. That's not really.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was like programmed incorrectly, but I found this exploit. I found this years and years ago when I was playing it on GameCube. As soon as Sigma's fights start, you immediately have to jump out of the way, because if he slashes you with that lightsaber, it takes away like 25% of your health. Like, that
A
is
huge
no joke.
chunk. Yeah. He chops you down.
But if you just hover and just kind of keep climbing the wall in the top left-hand corner, and then as he does his like zigzagging back and forth as he's bouncing off the walls, when he's halfway up, if you shoot him, he will drop down and start the pattern all over again. So you just kind of stay up in that corner. You can just cheese him and just completely get through that entire first phase and not lose a single bit of health. But the second phase sucks. It's awful.
Okay, so the first phase, I will admit, I save stated the snot out of that one because I did not know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you just said you used an exploit. So come on, don't make me feel bad. I wanted to beat this.
I'm gonna have to ask you to get good, sir.
I was playing this for the journey, not for the. Not
Okay,
Playing
that's fair. That's fair.
Playing this for the journey, as I did a stage 87 times to try to get the last bonus.
Oh yeah. Oh, and the worst part about that. Okay, so when I finally went back, I said I went back, and after I beat all the main bosses, I went back to get all the final power ups, and the cannon being one of the last ones I didn't have. At that point, your little red friend sacrificed himself and gave you his arm cannon so that way you can move on. I didn't realize it's the exact same arm cannon that I was smashing my head on for 4 hours straight, breaking my thumbs trying to get. So when I finally got back there and made that jump for the first time, it wasn't there because I had already got it. It's the same arm cannon that you get naturally in the game anyways. I was like, all right, I'm going to get the arm cannon. And I made it up there first time, and there was no Dr. Wily or Dr. Light tube or anything. It's nothing. I was like, oh, I mean, I guess technically I do have the arm power up already, so this must be it.
So, Chris, you used the guide, so I'm sure you know about this, but Cory, this may be new information for you. Did you use a guide or look up cheats or anything?
I used a guide specifically just for the power-ups after the fact. I didn't look up.
Well, did you get every last power-up? And by that, I mean...
No, I did not get that. I forgot the Hadouken.
Yes, you can get the Hadouken from Street Fighter. Yeah, you can get the Hadouken from Street Fighter, and it one-shots everything.
Even bosses?
Even the bosses. The caveat...
well, then I'm glad I didn't get it.
The caveat, though, is that you have to be at full health to use it.
Oh, really? Does it just replace your normal blaster?
It's like when you're playing
or is it a charge shot?
The sword with full life with the fairies.
You still have to perform the move like you would at Street Fighter. So like, half crescent.
So you got to do like the quarter circle forward.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. That is really cool. And I can't remember, like, didn't you have to go back in order to get that? You had to like go to the armadillo stage, and like there's some certain pit that you had to like jump into 4 times.
Yes.
Like you had to kill yourself 4 times, and then it would change the spawn of some item or something like that. And
correct. So you have to, once you get to the minecart section, which launches you through the air, at the end, just before you reach the wall, jump up and climb that wall. At the top, there'll be a large energy unit. Get it, and then jump into the pit and die. You have to do this 4 or 5 times. I can't remember exactly. And on the
4
fifth,
times, yeah.
Okay, then on the 5th time, a capsule will appear on the same ledge. You enter the capsule, and Dr. Light will teach you the Hadouken.
Now, was that like a hidden Easter egg, or being and for everybody that doesn't know, like, Capcom made Street Fighter, everybody, so
of course Ryu is canon for Mega Man, of course.
I mean, like, when the game came out, was this like something that like was like in? I'm sure it was in cheap
I'm sure
books.
It was
in
like a Nintendo Power or something. But...
Yeah.
I unfortunately did not buy that issue of Nintendo Power volume 56. I was going to, and I was like, you know what, Sean, you're just doing it for one episode. I might go back and buy it just to check and see if it is in there. But I can't imagine anybody figuring out on their own that they have to go to
exactly. Yeah.
There's just no way. There's no way you're going to figure out to go to a specific spot and kill yourself 4 times.
4 times.
After you complete you 100% the game.
And also, what year did this game come out?
1993, homie.
93.
And
Street Fighter 2 was also what, 92?
Oh, Chris, don't make me. I don't know. I don't know 100% for fact which year it is. I think
the original release date was 87.
Oh, are you talking Street Fighter 1 or Street Fighter 2? Because I mean, I think that's what everybody thinks.
Street Fighter 2 was 91
in Japan.
I don't know. That's what Google told me, but it came out. So, like, I mean, this came out in Japan also. So I'm assuming the original thing.
The Mega Man X came out in 1993 in Japan first, and then it was later released in North America and Europe. I didn't research Street Fighter on my way doing all this, so sorry.
Go back and brush up on my history related to Mega Man.
My thought just being, I wonder if this was like a promotional tie-in to Street Fighter or something.
I doubt it. It was probably just a cool Easter egg because it's Capcom.
Yeah, I think it was just people probably talking to other people on the team. Probably some people worked on both games and were just like, you know, it'd be cool. Well, let's do it.
I mean, they're both Capcom. They're in the same building, probably. So,
more than likely, yeah, it's definitely cool. And in fact, for speedrunners, the optimum route through this game is to actually get the Hadouken by 100%ing everything else.
Really?
Yeah,
because it just makes that big of a difference for the boss fights.
Like I said, it's a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
So guys,
these boss fights at the end just turn into a 2-second fight instead of 3 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, and like for I was gonna try to move us on, but like the armadillo, like you know how you have to break his armor off.
Did you have to? Okay.
Well, with the Hadouken, I think normally you have to break his armor in order to beat him, but I'm not 100% certain on that. On that note, guys, is there anything else that you have before we move on to the next segment?
Yes, Hadouken!
Welcome back, everybody. This is our last segment where we discuss our final thoughts on the game. Replaying the game, I definitely enjoyed it more than I did when I was younger, and I can appreciate how much deeper of a game this is with levels that interact with one another. But unfortunately, the story just doesn't really do it for me. In the old games, it almost becomes tedious having that Dr. Light versus Dr. Wily over and over and over again for every game. But playing Mega Man X, I was really missing that. I also wasn't a huge fan of the music because they just don't feel very iconic to me, with the exception of probably Spark Mandrill's music, which is top notch. But it's not like those classic Mega Man games like 2 and 3, where virtually every song is just ear candy. The game was fun, although easy. I probably won't come back to it on Super Nintendo, but like I said, I do want to play Maverick Hunter on the PSP and give it a shot. But if you've never played this game before and you are new to the Mega Man series, I don't think this is a problem with starting off because, like Chris and Cory mentioned, it's a much more casual experience than the classic Mega Man. So you might enjoy it a little more than I did, being a fan of those classic titles. Cory, what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's still Mega Man. To me, it feels like a rehashing or like an imitation kind of, and it is a very more forgiving and casual version. I find it so tedious. Like I said, there's a lot of fights and a lot of bosses where you have to kind of like constantly stop and assess the situation, and it's not a lot of the old school Mega Man of just blitzing through stages blasting everything. So that's really what kind of kills it for me.
Chris, bring us home.
I liked it. I would probably revisit this. Like if the nephews are coming over, I'm a big fan of Super Nintendo. Is one of my favorite systems. So I mean, a Mega Man game on the Super Nintendo isn't like, there's no way it's going to be bad for me. So I liked it. I would probably, this would be a good one for me to introduce Mega Man with Gibbs. Well, I mean, actually, this is exactly how Gibbs got his introduction to Mega Man. So, and he really liked it. So, I'm gonna give this one 1.5 thumbs up. I liked it, and it's super casual friendly. So
yeah, it's like certainly forgiving.
Yeah, right up my alley. So and it's pretty. The classic Super Nintendo graphics. I like it. And the music is the only thing that is, forgettable about this. But other than that, this is just a perfect classic Super Nintendo Mega Man experience for me.
I'm glad that we all had different opinions about the game. That you're more pro, I'm kind of mixed, and Cory's very against.
Yeah.
So everyone, last year we watched the Super Mario Brothers Super Show for our final episode. Next. This year, we've decided to watch the Super Mario Brothers film and not the one by Illumination.
This is going to be fantastic, everybody.
We're going to watch the 1993 live-action film with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
Everyone out there, I completely forgot about this.
Oh, I haven't. It's sitting right next to me. My DVD copy is right there.
I wish we could do a watching party for this and just have everybody in our Discord in on this at the same time. Oh, this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I don't think we can stream this film. There might be some problems with that.
Actually,
we could.
Actually, I think you can in Discord. You can do screen sharing, or if we can find a copy of it allowed on YouTube, and we could share it on YouTube through Discord.
That. Well, Chris and Cory, thank you guys so much. I hope that you guys have a safe and happy holidays. And everyone out there, thank you so much for deciding to listen to us yet again. Thank you, everyone. Until next time, we've been Superannuated Starman.